Alright, so let's move on to this next section, 4M. I've gone through the up to 3M, so now it's time to go over 4M. This is from the swing trading course. The other, so when I do the readouts, just make sure it's from the right course, the swing or the tape reading course, the day trading course. So just make sure you draw the distinction. Also, like, you know what? Let's just start. So these are forms of charts. There's nothing really rocket science about them, but there is some things you have to know. Um, Most of the principal moves in the market are made by large operators. Large operators. People who are in the know. Next, when important interests are accumulating a line of stock, a study of the transactions will frequently disclose a fact, not in every case, but in the majority, the more important operations, the more easy they are discovered by studying the price, volume, and the activity and the behavior of the stock. So this is like, again, another reference to when he says, the market will tell you what's going to do. Well, this is one of the things you look for to see if there's a line of accumulation, and they'll talk about point figure, which is what he used to determine that, along with a bar chart, of course, and volume indications on the bar chart, but a base on the P&F chart. Anyway, an experienced tape reader without memoranda can can keep the movements of number of stocks in his head. And you don't really need to do that because we have computers and watch lists and notes. But the idea is that, use a chart. You don't need to use a tape. Why? It's easier, more accurate, and more reliable method of tracing these inside operations. So basically, he refers to the use of charts and graphs instead of the tape, meaning you don't really need to use a tape when you have a chart. Chart is a visual tape. That's somewhere he says that. All right, that's how he treats it. But note that the tape and the chart, both the principles applied to them are the same, meaning you're not doing fanciful patterns. What you're doing is applying tape reading skill, looking for support and pressure, looking for areas of failure, looking for buying and selling, and one to overcome the other, and so on and so forth. And we'll go over a lot of those indications. Anyway, chart. Here you go. Charts are merely the tape transactions in graphical form. That's what I was saying before. They record market history. Yeah. Chart have forecasting value because they indicate supply and demand, the volume. They form a complete or concrete record of the forces that lift and depress prices, basically support and pressure. There's nothing so good as charts. Okay. Everybody keeps charts, so does Wall Street. That's what he says here. Again, over here he says, don't be mechanical, do not use oscillators. Do not be mechanical and do not use oscillators without judgment. Now, even when you use a P&F, the count and the target, that is done mechanically across different lines, but there's judgment applied to it. You have to find lines of accumulation, not just bases. Over here, he's basically saying, don't use oscillators. What else do you need to know? Basically, oscillators and most indicators, right? So it could be something like, I don't know, I don't want to mention anything, but you all know what that means. And when you look at a chart, what are you trying to do? Determine motive and behavior. Motive and behavior by looking at support and pressure, meaning supply and demand, its ability to move price up and down, the volume it attracts on the way up and down, the time it takes to go up and down, so on and so forth. Here he says markets are in bullish, bearish, or neutral positions, and that goes for stocks as well as the whole market. Selecting the charts best suited to your purpose. It may seem at first that there's a lot of charts, but you know what? There are a lot of charts. You know, I guess like what happens is even if you have a lot of charts in the beginning, it seems like a lot of charts. After 3 months down the line, you literally can go over in like 15 minutes or 10 minutes or even less. You know, because whatever happened today is not much different than what happened yesterday most of the time. So the chart looks the same. It has always been my rule to reduce the number of my charts. Okay, I disregarded when he did his best work. This is important. When he did his best works, what he did was he looked at an average, a bar chart of an average, and a point figure chart of 150 leading stocks. Now I'm contemplating if this is what I want to do. You know, if I want to take a look at, say, about 50 to 100 stocks and the average, and apply this method to show like when markets are on springboards, ready to move, etc., etc. We'll see, because I'm contemplating whether to do it with the stock market, do it with some other market like forex markets, because it's I don't know. We'll see. But the thing is, it's really annoying to set up the charts in the beginning. It's really, really annoying, like to set up the charts and the because there's like, I don't know, 8 or 9 sectors or something like that. You know, there's a bunch of sectors. Each sector has so many groups. You know that, right? It has a lot of groups, the industry groups in it. So going through the sectors, then going through the groups, and then going through the stocks. So that's one approach, versus just having a market and a bunch of stocks. Like, you know, maybe just have a market and then go through a bunch of stocks. That's also a style. Like, I think those are the two styles: the top down or bottom up approach. I don't know which one I'm going to do, but I don't want it to be too cumbersome. What else? Or like if for forex it would be easier, but then again, the point figure charts with forex is may or may not be. Well, we'll see. I've done the point figure charts already for the euro, yen, and pound, so the others shouldn't be too hard. We'll see. In this method, we use 3 kinds of charts: vertical line, figure, and wave chart. Alright, now I know this like the back of my hand. Using any volume or time, doesn't matter. Vertical chart, figure chart, and wave chart. So those are the 3. Vertical chart is a bar chart or a candle chart. It's really the same thing. Vertical chart. Anyway, I'm not going to go through that. Everybody knows what a bar chart and volume is, right? Basically, high-low close is a bar and the volume underneath it. So when you use a vertical chart, or bar chart, use the high-low close and the volume from this, the price movement, meaning the high-low close, we are able to judge the supply and demand, the points of resistance and support, and the trend. The volume indicates the intensity of the trading. The time factor is also important because it enables us to estimate the speed of the advances and declines. The speed is, if you have, for example, a market that's accelerating, it has a lot of speed. So that if you draw a trend line, it would be very acute. It would be going up at a sharp angle. So that's the way you measure speed. Alright, okay. Studies which follow. From the volume and the price movement, we find the greatest aid in determining the direction of coming moves. Yeah, so this is when to buy, when to sell. From the volume, we find the greatest aid in determining the direction of the coming moves. There's ways of doing this, obviously, right? The direction of coming moves when you have low volume pullbacks, effort rewards, low volume springs, stuff like that, and tests of climaxes on low volume, tests of support, low volume. So when market is on the springboard and when a move is culminating, the high and low volume would show, when supply demand is dried up, and high volume would show a transfer of, during a climax, the transfer from one side to the next of contracts, shares, or whatever. So this is all judged by volume. In fact, there's actually much more to this. Wave chart, really, for tape reading, for real tape reading, I don't see how it can be done without volume, because you're gauging force, and I just don't see how it can be done. Tape reading using the wave chart can be done without volume, although he tries to do it with time, but I think it's time is an alternative to using volume. In general, it really does require volume, but time is the alternative, and Wyckoff used both time, and he also used volume. Daily vertical charts are made to record the daily movement. Okay, whatever, so I use the daily, a weekly, and a monthly. And he liked the daily a lot. And he says daily charts are more effective for timing commitments advantageously and for recognizing turning points. Alright, so we're done with that bar chart section. Let's take a look at the figure chart. What is it for? You use the general formations. From the general formations, actually this is not the general formation you want. You want bases. Okay, but before we go that, figure charts are a great value in estimating the probable extent of supply and demand and points of support and resistance. These are the two things. One, cause and effect, meaning the line of supply, the forecast, and the points of support and resistance. And those are basically two things I use it for too. So we are able to detect accumulation or distribution using figure charts. We see clearly marked the lines of support and resistance. We also identify markup and markdown. The most valuable feature of figure charts is the horizontal formation, which tells you how much, a guesstimate of how much it's going to go, how much the move is going to go. So again, let's just sum all of this up. How far a stock should go. This is also really, this you're going to realize later, they're the greatest aid in determining how far a stock should go when it meets opposition, when it has reached the end of its move, and with the help of the vertical chart determine the trend. So obviously use it for cause and effect, right? But the other thing is when it meets the opposition, how do you detect that? Or when is it ready to shoot? So for this you need basically to understand the concept of a springboard. Springboard is like a gun. It shoots it shoots the stock up. Bullish springboard and bearish springboard shoot it down. So this is all under the section of figure charts and their most valuable feature, which is the ability to forecast how far it's gonna go and when the stock is on a springboard and when you see support and resistance. It's pretty clear, not that much rocket science. Like, you see all these X's and O's, and you see the higher O's, those are lines of support. So we'll go through all that. All right. Alright, now he goes into a figure chart. Obviously, none of us are going to create figure charts, but it is required. It is required to have them. Okay, so quickly to talk about figure charts. There are numerous platforms that have figure charts. So I don't know how y'all gonna follow along without this. So here's the thing: you need to be able to do the 1 point figure chart and a 3 point figure chart. Almost all platforms have 3 point figure chart, right? 3 point reversal and 1 point. But in general, I think TradeStation has the 1 point figure and the 3 point. Everyone has, everything has 3 point figure chart. But TradeStation has the 1 point figure. eSignal has it. Market Delta has it. InvestRT has it. The older Bullseye Broker, when it was good, not after it was taken over by people who didn't know what they were doing. But the old Bullseye Broker has it. Stock Charts does not have the 1 point figure chart. The other one I think is Updata. Updata platform has it as well. And maybe, I'm not sure, but I think SMI would. I think they would have the. I really don't know if they have it, but you can check with them if they have a charting service that has the 1 point figure chart. But in general, eSignal, Market Delta, InvestRT, TradeStation, Updata, they should all have figure charts that support the one box reversal. In fact, eSignal actually has a setting, a Wyckoff setting that you click on, and it has really nice ease of use. TradeStation is also used. Ninja Trader has a 3 box reversal, but it does not have the 1 box reversal, which for the life of me I can't figure out why they still don't have it. That NT7 didn't have it, NT8 I don't think has it either. So anyway, do whatever you want, but if you don't have it, you don't have it. But those are the platforms that have the 1 box reversal. And eSignal, I think they have like a cheaper deal or something like that. End of day deal. I don't know. Alright, this is a 1 point chart. So obviously he used a 1 point chart. This is your 3 point chart. Also, for bigger charts, there's nothing wrong with using 10 box reversal, 5 box reversal, 20 box reversal, depending on the size. The problem comes in is when you're trading very small stocks, like $10 stocks. You do not have a one box reversal for a cheap stock, a $10 stock, you know, so it has to be modified, and that's the problem. Like, he really wanted to use one box because point and figure, the figure in point and figure refers to a whole number. It does not refer to any fractions. All right. So, and there's a huge difference even if you're using a dollar reversal, $1 reversal between a $30 stock and a $100 stock. A big difference. You know, so in my opinion, like, I don't want to give advice on how to manipulate the chart, but it's best if you experiment and see the chart you're using, the price of the stock, and the reversal amount, the box size. The box size. You know, if you use a one box reversal, let's say you use a box of one, then that's a 1% change on a $100 stock. But if you use a box of one on a $20 stock, that's like 5%. So obviously, like, you can't use one, right, on a $20 stock. So this is where you have to, like, have a you have to decide which ones you're going to use. I'm not sure if there was guidance given here. For me, I just check, and when I get a feel for it, I know that that's the right, that's the what I'm going to use. I had a lot of difficulty before used with the commodities and forex, but eventually you just figure it out. So anyway, moving on up. The 5-point figure chart or 10-point figure chart, don't matter. You have to really feel it, like, be able to see clear rallies, clear consolidations, clear bases. It's very important you learn how to make, you see that? Very important that you learn how to make fully understand, what do you say? That you fully understand the 1 and 3 box chart. So at a minimum, you should be using at least a 1 box chart, and really 1 and 3 box chart. He uses in this course 1 and 3. And we do the studies of how to conduct a campaign, or how a campaign is conducted by strong hands. You'll see that he uses both, I think, the 1 and the 3 box. Anyway, so trend chart is nothing more than an index, a bar chart of the index. So for that you could use the S&P, or you could use Dow or the Nasdaq. That's the trend chart. The trend chart is the market. There are two trends to be considered. The immediate trend for active traders who endeavor to get it in and out on small. The immediate trend is what the second course is about. The day trading course, the active trading course, the tape reading course, whatever you want to call it. That's the immediate trend. The immediate trend, you get in and out like 1 to 3 times a day. Alright, then there is the other course, which is the one everyone knows, is the trend of the intermediate, the swing trading course, where you're going for bigger moves. Alright, so the trend chart, what does he want you to use? The daily, the weekly, that's enough. And if you want to use the monthly, but I'm not going to use the monthly because there are too many charts. Alright, and you want to use, but I think the weekly is pretty important, especially if you're going to trade on the daily. It's critical to have the weekly. And a lot of times the daily is very confusing. I've seen many times where it's just doesn't make any damn sense. As soon as you go to the weekly, you can see clarity. You can see the consolidation. Alright, monthly movement. Groups and averages. If one lives in okay, never mind. What is the trend? The trend is the line of least resistance. It is the most important thing. It is the most important thing to know about the market. But let me tell you what's really important. You have to know, especially for day traders, how the trend changes. So there was actually Wyckoff wrote about it. He basically said when the buying waves get smaller and the selling waves get bigger. But Gann, I like Gann's what Gann gave a definition about how trend changes. He basically looked for profit taking, which would be equivalent to some type of sign of weakness, and then he looked for a high, a slight higher high, which would be the equivalent of an upthrust that would scare the early shorts, that would scare the shorts. And then what he did was look for a break of the lows. So basically, he's looking for a sign of weakness followed by some type of manipulation in the form of a higher high or a break, and a shortening of the thrust, or a higher high or a up thrust or whatever after the sign of weakness. Call it a shakeout, whatever you want to call it. It's just a higher high, that slight higher high, and then a reversal that breaks the lows after that. So that's what Gann looks for, and which is his earlier works, by the way, of they are very similar to Wyckoff, very similar. I mean, you look at it and you think Wyckoff wrote that. His earlier works had nothing to do with all that shit he did later on. His earlier works were actually focused on tape reading. Anyway, so it is the most important thing for the market or an individual stock is the trend, and you got to know how it turns. You have to know how it turns. Alright, whatever. Alright, these are just some charts. This is a high-low chart without the close, right? I don't know, what am I going to do with this? Don't know. Okay, so here he kind of sums it up. I think, no, I'm not sure if he sums it up here. And the wave chart, this is also very important to keep. You could just put the wave chart on top of the daily chart. So anyway. What he's saying here is that some groups move before others. And same thing with stocks. You see? Generally, however, stocks tend to move much more uniformly down in declining markets than upward in advancing cycles. Alright, so they all go down together, but they take turns when they go up and mark up. Generally. Now, here's the question. Which index do you use? And basically, it doesn't matter. Just use S&P or Dow or NASDAQ, whatever you want to use. Because it's more about being in harmony with the market than it is about, because they have very similar correlations. So He's hinting here on comparative analysis of weakness. We'll go into that. So let's see what else. That's an important term, folks. Changes of behavior. Okay, here's a comment that he makes. Vertical charts are essential for the proper timing of commitments and especially for detecting the minor turning points because there are times when figure charts may be unchanged while the vertical charts are at the same time show persistent supply demand within a small range. Or the vertical charts may show exceptionally large volume of shares changing hands, indicating the completion of a move, or the volume might be shrinking, which indicates under certain conditions would indicate at the top of a swing or lessening or demand, or basically the volume in the vertical chart and the number of bars. I mean, the whole point here is you have to use them together. Okay, like if you have a bunch of bars that are tightening, it will not show on the figure chart because the figure chart, they have to break a certain amount of range from high to low. So you need the vertical chart to see that tightening over a course of time. You also need the vertical chart to show high volume or low volume during that range. Alright, so that's what all he's saying is, like, don't use one, use both. That the whole point of this is use both. In deciding when to act, the tape or the wave chart of tape reading is the best guide. This is what I've been saying before, was that the second course, the second division of the course is what is used for entry when combined with the first division of the course. This is something nobody does that I know of, but we'll see. But I mean, it can be done. Like, anyway. And the other thing is, it shows a psychological moment to buy or sell. You see, a lot of times people look for triggers. They're looking for a red or green trigger. But again and again, Wyckoff says use judgment, and here he says there is a psychological moment to buy or sell. Does he say, it went green or red? No, he's talking about psychological moment to buy or sell, which I interpret as an internal signal that the trader feels as a consequence of following a process, an analytical process. A psychological moment is an internal signal the trader feels that is the result of his judgment. You see? It's not it broke out over some level, or that could be part of, like, it could be actually be part of your internal makeup of how you judge the market. That could be that psychological moment to buy or sell, but it really is individual to the trader because it's psychological. It's not external red or green signal. This is a whole thing on the wave chart. We're going to do extensive amount of wave chart later on. I know this pretty good, and here he says the wave chart is invaluable where to determine the turning points, not tumbling points, of the swings. Group charts. This is also something I'm contemplating, like, because it's not easy to do. But basically, the idea is you got the wind at your back. There are actually studies that have been done and cited by folks that show that the majority of price movement in a stock is not coming from the stock. It's actually coming from the industry group that the stock is in. So I think I'm not sure if it was 30 or 70% or 40% or whatever. I don't remember. It's a long while ago. But the study basically resulted in saying that if the group is going up, the stock is going to go up. Pressure from the group is going to move the stock. Pressure from the sector is moving the group, is moving the stock. So when you're trading, you want that additional pressure on your side. You want higher time frame pressure. You want group pressure. You want even sector pressure, and you want market pressure. Like in my view, like you're taking a lot of the randomness out when you have the group on your side, the stock on your side, you have the what is it, the market on your side. You have everything on your side. You know, it's very helpful. Even though anything can happen on a particular trade, in general, you know, you would say the probabilities favor if the market is strong. Today and last week, it you know, strength is more often than not, then it's going to continue to be like that for some time. You know, it's definitely it's difficult to say that this is 50-50 if you have everything on your side. 50-50 on a sequence of trades, not any single trade, because as you know, stuff does happen. But when you put, anyway, in the selection of the best stocks to trade, the group charts are of material assistance. These are made of about 5 leading stocks in each industry. Oh God. Alright, now I'm not sure if I'm gonna do that because these groups are very well defined, and I'm gonna show how. Let's see. So you go to, for example, stockchart.com. Free tools. Where is their stuff? They must have a daily summary somewhere. So you go to sector summary. You have all your sectors here. Then I want to see financials. So these are your groups under financials. You see? So you got the sector and you have the groups. Then I don't see if they have PNF here. What is this? I like the fact that they automatically did the PNF, which is nice. Let's see, 1, 2, 3. Anyway, so it looked like they have the the groups, they have the PNF chart of the group, so it's not bad. You know, see what the banks are doing. What the hell is this? And then you know when you click on a particular group, you have all the stocks. And then I want to see generally large cap. So let's go here. It's not bad, but I'm looking for. I'll see if I use this or not. Like decision to make. This is one of the things that's annoying me. Like going through all of this. I mean, a lot of times you can just look at the chart and you know there's supply here, and anyway, um, or demand, or you know this is high. This is where to go. But I don't know. The purpose of these charts to show which industries promise to improve or deteriorate and warn you to search in those groups for opportunities. A better or poorer outlook for the steel industry or motor. Okay, whatever. The whole point is this. Alright, so we go through the God. Maybe see the more like which industries. I think this is better. Just let's see. There's the financial sector. Those are the financial groups. Healthcare groups. So this shouldn't be rocket science. Because I have to be able to do it in less than 30 minutes, everything. So maybe 15. Well, we'll see. Technology, utilities. And also these symbols, they're Dow Jones symbols. So I don't know what's inside of each of them. You know, I might have to look into that. Because one of the things here that he mentions is leading stocks in each industry. Right? Group charts should have leading stocks in each industry. But for sure, this industries here may have leading and definitely have laggard. They have large cap and they definitely have. So I go into. Like, do you think all of these are leading? No. You know, do you really want to see? What is this? A dollar stock? A $3 stock in your group? So this is what I'm talking about. Like, so there has to be a better way because I don't want to get second-rate crap. So the group chart should have leading stocks in each industry. So figure out how to do that without having to manually go through the leading stocks. Anyway, shit. Maybe Todd Butterfield from SMI, maybe he does this already. If he does, it would be nice to just use his SMI charting tool. And just pay for that. Save yourself the hassle of doing all this mechanical labor. Sheet. Alright, so here's the summary. Vertical charts. What are you looking for? The trend, when to buy, when to sell, when to close, where to place stop orders. Figure charts. What are you looking for? The best opportunities. Why the best opportunities? Because the best opportunities will be in a springboard position. They will have a base and they will have potential. Alright, those are the best opportunities, and the distance, the cause, and the effect of that potential, along with support and resistance lines. The horizontal formation, general formation, that tells you, whether it's an accumulation or not. Okay? Time, speed of the advance, well, that's measured with trend lines. Volume, intensity of trading, increasing or diminishing. Basically, pullback should have low volume. That's in general, because sometimes pullbacks have high volume. It's very, very bullish because there's a lot of effort and someone's holding the bag. And intensity of trading, climaxes, all of this behavior. So this is a nice little summary. Anyway, wave chart, we could definitely use that a lot. The turning points, how to catch the turning points. I'll go into this entire topic later on. Alright, finally done with section 4M. I know that was a long section, but just have to bear with me because I'm going through the whole thing. Anyway, have a good night. Bye.